There are new important developments happening around the convicted pedophile who's friends and hangs out with Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, British royalty, and other powerful figures in this world. And that, of course, is Jeffrey Epstein, which we're finding out right now that his victims will now meet with prosecutors to actually review the sweetheart deal he got, the deal of a lifetime he got that was given to him by now Trump Labor Secretary Acosta. Now, this story is breaking, and it's a very important one since, of course, this looks like federal prosecutors now, because of all the public pressure, because of all the public information, because of actual investigative journalism, mainly done by the Miami Herald. I think there is an opportunity here to reopen this case and actually get some solid justice, if you could even call it that, Jason. As we're seeing, federal prosecutors announce that they're going to try to speak to all of the victims, and there's more than 30 of them, all of the victims of, again, wealthy financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in their case, whether they will allow the sweetheart deal he got to continue or whether they're going to recharge him. This is pretty big news here, Jason. I mean, this is going to be essential. They're saying here that the victim's input is going to be very important in deciding how to proceed in this long-running case. And they're, of course, filing this in the Miami U.S. Attorney Office. They're filing this in the U.S. District Judge Office of Kenneth Mara. And this is going to be a ruling that may overturn everything and totally reopen this case where there actually could be severe ramifications for Jeffrey Epstein, who, by the way, literally got away with, I wouldn't even call it a slap on the wrist, Jason, because this guy literally was supposed to face life in jail, and he was given 1 year in jail with work release, where he was able to leave during the day and only sleep at night in jail. Yes, 1 year for a case where he was supposed to, where many people thought he was going to be charged for the rest of his life. It's crazy, Jason. But what other details around this stick out to you, and how do you think this will proceed?
Well, there's a lot to talk about with this alone, but I want to point out that you were just talking about the deal given to him by the now Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta. Now, Acosta has basically been on a tour to talk about this budget, and in two separate hearings, we had Catherine Clark, who you see behind me, grill him, and we found out that Acosta said something really stunning here. First of all, Clark made the point that Epstein should have been looking at 360 years minimum, as the amount of victims that we publicly know about are 36. It may be more than that, but 36 is the number people are talking about. So he then says, well, we showed the evidence to a grand jury and they didn't want to give him any jail time. Huge news. Media ignored it. And then he claimed that one of the reasons in a separate hearing to Frederico Wilson, that one of the reasons this went down is because he was too aggressive in his prosecution of Epstein, if you can believe that. Now, getting to the details of this case.
By the way, just so people know, this is the guy that gave the deal of a lifetime. This is the guy that gave him jail for 1 year when he was able to leave during the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So now they're saying they want 60 days to interview all the victims. Now, on its face, that seems more than reasonable. If you have over 36 victims, you want to interview these people. I think this is a great step. However, I want to point out that Bradley Edwards, the man who beat Epstein in court, for those that don't know, Brad Edwards was representing some of the victims. Epstein originally sued him and defamed him, so Edwards went with a countersuit. That legal process took almost 10 years. And finally, Luke, on the day that they were about to pick a jury selection day for that trial, Epstein conceded. He gave an undisclosed amount of money to Edwards, and then he had to write in a statement that he had basically defamed him, and Bradley Edwards had done his job correctly and done the right thing. It was incredible. Again, the media barely covered that aspect of it. So Bradley Edwards still representing these women, and so is Jack Scarola, who acted as his lawyer. They're saying this may be more of a stalling technique. And I have to say, that is a possibility here. These guys would know. They were stalled for over 10 years. They would like the government to go first and basically take this deal away. This is the Justice Department investigating it, and then begin. But they want to talk to the women. They think that this could be detrimental. So it's really a two-headed snake. We want to hear these women. Yeah, we want to hear these women. We want to hear their stories. But I want to make sure that Epstein and his cronies finally pay for their crimes.
Yeah. And of course, they've been working very hard to seal a lot of the evidence, to seal a lot of the information from coming to public light. But the prosecutors wrote, quote, "The victim's views and concerns are critical to inform the government's recommendation of an appropriate remedy, particularly given the sensitive nature of the crimes at issue." Of course, obviously, the government should look and see, hey, this guy was facing life in jail, was given work release for 1 year and a slap on the wrist. Yes, we should look into that. A judge recently ruled in February of this year that the prosecutors broke the law with that sweetheart deal, in part because the victims weren't even notified of what Jeffrey Epstein was punished with. So, of course, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit naive. It's important to be critical here, and I'm happy you're bringing up the other kind of aspects of this because, again, it was the same legal system that allowed this very powerfully connected individual who, again, is friends, hangs out with Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, British royalty, to get away with such egregious crimes that we know of. We still most likely don't even know about other actions that could have potentially happened on his private island, on his private jets, and other locations where the United States doesn't have jurisdiction or didn't conduct their investigation, since we know Jeffrey Epstein was all over the place. He wasn't just in one particular state. He was flying around all over the place with a lot of powerful people, with Bill Clinton even ditching his Secret Service to get on this Lolita Express doing God knows what. And now, this is not the only kind of scrutiny that Epstein is facing. He's building another island right now. He's building another compound right now in the Virgin Islands, and he's already getting into trouble over illegally building. He was ordered to stop by the local jurisdictions in this Caribbean, and according to many sources, he has not stopped. He is building, of course, just what people are calling a complex of buildings, an amphitheater, an underwater office and pool. Like, this guy is loaded, and he is the prime example, in my opinion, of what happens when you have all the money and all the connections, and what atrocities, what horrible actions you can actually get away with. This interesting development on his island is also very curious to see, hey, this man is still literally building amphitheaters for himself. Jason, what do you think of that?
Well, first of all, I want to point out that behind me is Little St. James Island, where most of the abuse involving some of these higher elite echelon people is accused to be of taking place, right? What's that behind me? It's a weird temple that actually existed on Epstein's island. Now, there's a lot of evidence that was bulldozed. When you talk about this new construction, and it's huge, it's not on Little St. James Island, it's on Great St. James Island. It's an even bigger piece of property. This man has lost none of his power, none of his prestige, none of his influence. Listen, Google his name. He's constantly still trading on the stock market. He is a billionaire who may be in ill repute in the media and circles like ours, but on the other side of the coin, he's still working with politicians like, I don't know, Steve Bannon? Huh, Bannon? Your Breitbart railed against him on the way to the Trump presidency, but...
Well, that was an allegation from Roger Stone. We should make that on the record, correct? Has that been verified?
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I would say that it's been verified in the sense that people like Cernovich haven't said a peep about it, even though you talked to him about it. And then he literally, remember when you interviewed Cernovich?
Yeah. We talked about Epstein.
Within the week, he interviewed Bannon for an hour, and it never came up. And there have been other...
Cernovich is suing Epstein, too.
Well, Cernovich is in a joint lawsuit with the Miami Herald Yes, he's absolutely in that lawsuit. And then there's a separate suit with the Dershowitz claim. And now there's even more suits because Dershowitz has basically been saying that Virginia Roberts Guthrie has lied about him and will only say these things in court. So now she's suing him on top of the sexual abuse allegations, but for defamation of character as well.
Yeah.
So there's
a lot of
politics
politics here. A lot of hearsay, a lot of politics
here. A
here.
lot of lawsuits going on, bro. A lot of things. And I
Yeah.
want to point this out. This is something, and maybe we'll end on this point here, that these people are so interconnected. You look at Kenneth Starr, the man who impeached Clinton. He's a lawyer for Epstein. Now, on the other end of the aisle, at the confirmation hearings for Bill Barr, Ben Sass brought up the Epstein case. Now, this is before they decided that the Justice Department was going to start looking into it and all of that, right? And what did Bill Barr do? Well, Bill Barr basically said he had to recuse himself of anything, more than likely, because he worked for, I think it's Keller and Ellison. I may be mispronouncing that, but one of the law firms that represented Epstein. So think about that. I'm not saying that Bill Barr was involved in that case, but he certainly worked at the firm that was, and he would be, at least sociably aligned with some of these people in this case. So it's a small world when you get to that elite level, huh, Luke?
Yeah. They're all interconnected. I mean, Acosta, the labor secretary, is literally saying right now that when he was a prosecutor in this case, gave him a deal of a lifetime, he was, quote, too aggressive. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? I mean, we need more transparency here. Everyone deserves the right legal recourses here, the right to innocence. But again, federal courts ruled and were shocked, and judges have ruled, hey, this was not the way things were supposed to go. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense at all. And this is why it's important to be critical of it and ask real important questions surrounding this very powerfully connected individual and, of course, the next legal proceedings. If you guys enjoyed that, share this video with your friends and family members because it's definitely not going to be recommended by the algorithms there, Jason. But if you guys want this story to live, if you guys want information like this out there, you literally are responsible for it. That's all I have to say. Jason, do you want to close it off here?
Folks, we are doing 4 videos a day across 2 separate platforms, We Are Change and News for a Change. Please subscribe, ring that bell, share this stuff on social media, and most importantly, get out there and be the change you want to see in the world.